Hello and a very warm welcome to Power Talks by ETGCC. I'm Hemanshi Tewari. India's GCC market is going tremendously. It's growing at a rate that we couldn't have even imagined a few years back, right? But with every growth comes great responsibility. The new ask perhaps is, will GCCs in India will be able to deliver on or lead on inclusion, sustainability and also future readiness, and this is perhaps what we're going to talk about today in this conversation. Joining me is Sreedevi Hegde. She is a managing director and board member for India, GCC head at Vervent. Sreedevi, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. We're also joined in by Suja, Chandy, Chief Sustainability Officer Global and Managing Director for India at Zafin. Thank you so much for joining us as well.
Delighted to be here.
Let's start with the context setting. Ladies, GCCs in India has now shifted from being just cost centers to capability, the innovation hubs, right? It's growing tremendously as we know, but from where you sit, how does or what does a truly future ready GCC look like? Maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. It's GCCs are, I think it's a word that is trending along with AI, at least here in India. Future ready, it's continuously evolving is what I would say, right? I mean, it has come a long way from being just cost arbitrage and even India becoming a place where, you have just easier talent that we can scale up with low cost. Now we focus on value and outcomes. And the future-ready GCCs need to think like they are just another office in a large global setup, delivering value and delivering outcomes and being very agile, right? So they need to be part of the global strategy. They need to understand the global strategy. And the leaders who are here need to understand both and bring in that cultural nuances as well to ensure that, we are delivering, outcomes. We are building products, not just for, locally, not just for the local Indian market, but also for the world. And and at the end of the day, inclusive as well, right?
Absolutely, and we're going to talk on all these points later in this conversation. Meanwhile, let me bring you in as well to this conversation from your vantage point, just for setting the context. What a truly, future-ready GCC look like?
So I can tell from my experience, right, being worked in GBS or COEs or shared surveys, that I've seen that from past 25 years, how the path has come through. Now I see from, cost center to profit engines, it's going to be business hubs, for sure, GCCs. Because my own organization, what we see here now already into is set up to transform or to drive the transformation journey for our global organizations. So what I see from here, sitting in the future, how they will be maybe the R&D centers, they will be AI COEs, and they will be even wet labs, as she mentioned, right? Products will be done, tested in the huge Indian market, and it will be going to the global. And what the readiness it needs to have is obviously upskilling and reskilling, and how well the AI literacy should happen, from top to bottom. That's very critical. And again, ESG and DEI inclusion is very, very critical. So that's what I see, right? Moving that shift from profit engines to business hubs means we run from business from here.
Yeah,
that's what I
No,
envision.
absolutely. When we talk about creating business hubs or innovation hubs, especially in India, perhaps the inclusion parts becomes as much important. The point that you also brought in while you were answering. So Suja, when it comes to inclusion, now I've seen a trend that it is not only about the head count, right? It's also about building diverse and inclusive teams. But there are many reports that not as in only in the mid management there are more women employees, not in the higher level or vice versa, right? So how do you think, like, what are those things that GCCs are doing right, but also what are those blind spots that we are not able to reach at?
Right. I think, becoming this, specifically in GCCs, we are really doing a good trend setting, because it's a flavor of, a mix of the service organization, teams coming together, or even the parent organizations, team coming and working here. So we are doing a lot of many things right, even including this AI. right? Why I say that? Because we are really hiring for the skill sets, and that biasness is removed because of AI. I've seen that happening really in our organization. Globally, our organization is almost 45% when it comes to diversity. I'm so proud to say, and I want to achieve that in our organization in India also. So I don't call it as GCC, so I call it as India center, usually most of the times. And I think what we are doing that right. Adding to that is the lot of policies from the government, right? Earlier, like say 16 years before, why I say that aptly, yesterday was my kiddo's 16th birthday. So when 16
Okay.
years before, when I became mom, I didn't have that privilege of getting 6 months holiday, right? Maternity leave. We just had exactly 12 weeks, not even 3 months. Yeah, that's it. And now you see my own organization, I'm happy to provide that 1 year work from home. So that is really what we are doing right. I will touch upon 2 points which might be we need to look for more is that gap you mentioned, right? Mid market is, or the mid level is okay. Even the inflow when it comes to new hires is at a junior level is okay. Why it is not transforming it to higher level? It could be two things, right? One, I see the promotion biasness. I've seen that in many organizations during my career. And second thing could be that the path we create for the women's, it's not completely foolproof. Okay, they will aim to take it, right? So the career framework need to be really much more foolproof for me. So it's more internal, both the aspects what I mentioned. And obviously government is helping in many ways. I've seen that coming. Hopefully these two will fix
All
what we are
right, and
seeing the
we'll
numbers.
perhaps talk about how GCCs are coming together to sort of build that inclusive environment for the women employees, for the inflow, and also so that they transform into higher levels as well. But before that, we are here talking about inclusion, also sustainability, and also future readiness, right? So we spoke about future readiness. We got an inclusion, but also sustainability. You know how realistic, Suja, it is in India, is to think of sustainability at the core. I mean, in your company also, is ESG only a compliance, or it's much more? And how realistic it is to think for other companies to do so?
Yeah. So great question, and I'll talk about Zafin, right? For us, ESG is embedded into everything that we do. Sustainability is embedded into everything that we do. How I say that is we have a roadmap that we are working towards to become net zero by around 2030. Although right now we are thinking of working with SBTI, that is Science-Based Target Initiative, to understand if our 2030 target is reasonable or do we need to move it further. But while we do that, we are already also member of UNGC SDG goals. We have adopted 10 out of the 17 SDG goals, and we globally, right? So being the Chief Sustainability Officer for Zafin and working out of India, that means, it's not just about India, but about globally how we work. And we are owned by Nordic Capital, again, for them, which is a private equity based in Europe, and for them as well, ESG is very fundamental to the way they invest, right? So this is a board topic for us. So we have operational and steering committee governance set up within to look at the progress at which we do. We have signed up, we talked about women, we have signed up something called Women Empowerment Principle. We are a signatory on that. What does that mean? Because we really look at how do we help women in our organizations not just, have a career, but thrive, right? So, my colleague here mentioned 45%. We are proud to say we are around 36%, which is pretty high for the IT industry that we are in, and 17% in the senior levels, the executive levels, right? And one of the beautiful things, when I joined Zafin, I have to say it's always been on merit. So we give equal opportunities for everyone, but once they come in, we make sure that the women are nurtured and supported. So, if they are going on a maternity leave, we have a flexible system where they can continue to work from home. Our new office in Trivandrum, I should call that out, we have a mother's room, a wellness room. So, new young mothers who are coming in can also take a break if they want to go in and, certain things as is expected of a mother. So we try to do a lot of these things to ensure that women don't drop off. And something that I sponsor, across Zafin globally is an ERG. It's an employee resource group called Zafin Leading Ladies. That is exactly to nurture women and through their career, right? To make it, how do we help them, support them by, it's almost like a little circle of supporters to figure out how do we help them through their process, whether it is their personal or professional. I mean, personally, we don't get in, but in India, a lot of things are pretty much, and women still take the the burden, right?
Yeah,
like
the guilt,
larger burden and the guilt.
Yeah.
So
I
we
got
want
another
to
point to add, if I
Yeah,
can add
please.
on. I still see that compensation parity. Still, I see when I see the roles when you have the equal employer, right, and we get, obviously we hire by skill. I still see that compensation parity when we see the people, and if you like a candidate, so what my CHRO does it beautifully, right? Scale them at the same level, irrespective of what they have come with from the previous organization. So I love that concept, and they do it. But again, it becomes very successful when you have at the same level and they are motivated equally, right? The equal opportunity by skill and by parity. If we bridge that gap, it will go a long way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Motivated equally, both from the company side and also from a different side that perhaps we won't be able to touch at in this conversation, because that's a huge topic for women employees in India. But before, let's make it a broader topic, not just women employees but all those employees, because there are new digital skills that are coming into the market, be it AI, be it anything. There's a huge digital transformation that's going in. How are GCCs sort of making that balance, that there is a digital push, of course, but also there is reskilling and inclusion? Because as we know, if we see the numbers, there are very less women when we see the STEM side of the picture, right? So how do we create that balance? Let's start with you, Sreedevi.
Sure. I think when it comes to balancing digital transformation, one thing is we need to tie what is that upskilling need to happen to the strategic goal of the organization. Is what is that new technology which organization is embracing, and not just blind spot, okay, let's learn everybody AI. It's not that. You need to first do the gap analysis. Okay, what is the digital thing you need to onboard people with, and what is the learning you need to do? That's the first step you need to do. Then upskilling and reskilling has to happen both equally. It's not just upskilling, because somebody has to even reskill. And it can happen, I can say, right, in different ways. You need not be, for example, IT folks. It needs to be completely, for example, mobile developer. Have two beautiful ladies, okay, they are super smart. And for them, you need real in-depth, because they front end, right, the mobile developing, section, and they will need to be upskilled faster. So we will fast track them. And somebody maybe say, in finance, they might take their own time, to do. And because they have enough time to reskill, and they might not have a tomorrow product to be tested. But you should not leave anybody. You should take, as you mentioned, right, nobody should be left out, and it should be taken together. And again, it depends on also the budget, right, availability. Every organization say, we are AI first and we want to be, doing first, but do you have that budget? So this mix of, doing when and how to which, team is very critical. But taking along everybody will go a long way.
So I like to jump in here because, this is a fantastic example, and I would love to call out what we do at Zafin. Because we have around, all our employees, whichever location they are in, right from day one, right, they get access to ChatGPT. That's an AI. So we are calling ourselves an AI first as well, right? AI plus human is what, human in the loop is what we like to, whatever we are doing. But that means we are leveling the field, right? And what that has done for us is, because we have partnered with OpenAI to have this enterprise ChatGPT so that our employees can, tinker with all of this and look at how they bring in operational efficiencies or productivity gains, or, easier to code. And, I've created a GPT just in a couple of, hours, and I'm not a coder by any means, using ChatGPT. So, and and not just me, like I've seen a lot of people who have used it for workflow scheduling, who have used it to, so that means the way that we are looking at it's a great leveler in one way. And the second thing is in learning, right? And you just mentioned upskilling, and so important, because for GCCs to thrive, they need to innovate, they need to bring value. How do you do that? You need to, not be doing the back end or, just pieces of it. You need to start with the thoughts and, and ideas and concepts, and that would actually result in better outcomes. And AI tools just help us do that. And we are engaging with it within the guardrails, and the sustainability part comes in here with, we have responsible AI guidelines and all of that coming in. But it's just fantastic how we've managed to, like, almost in 2 weeks, 90% of our employees around the world had started using it, right? And then we have something called Zafin University. So what that does is, from the time an employee, new joiner comes in, for the first 90 days, you're kind of put into a learning path, right? And it is making our jobs, AI is making our jobs easier because we are able to personalize it based on roles. So we are actively now experimenting with that. So there is a lot of things that you can do, and I think the power is in our hands, and we just have to come up with ideas that can be executed. And that would, and I always tell my the leadership sitting in global, said India is ready to pilot things for you, because we do have the mass, the scale, right,
the capability, the capacity,
and the capability.
Another thing,
well.
what it will help is, it will help to retain the employees, the new age employees, but they want this. Just now in the inside, we were listening to one of the panels, right? They very clearly said earlier we maybe wanted maybe shares or some other thing to retain, or some other maybe a bonus
ESOPs,
or something.
ESOPs.
It's not now, not that. You introduce them to a new AI tool, new certification or new anything, they will be very happy. So it's the way to retain. And as well, they are current with the local whatever is happening globally, and we can, as she said, right, really build a workforce which is ready all the time for the global organization.
No, great points made. A few days back, there was a Sam Altman's interview where he was telling that there are going to be a few jobs that AI will take over. Customer support is one of those jobs. There are now many chatbots, maybe programming. Like you said, that you created a GPT without being a coder or a programmer, right? Just English. So how are you also creating that environment in your organization that your employees aren't scared to use AI? The human loop, in the loop that you're talking about, they actually know the meaning of what's human in the loop, and your organization is with them,
right,
and not against them.
Right, and we are a product company, right? We create a banking technology. We have a platform that helps banks modernize their core, transform, innovate their product and pricing solutions. So what that means is, yes, by coding, by using tools like Cursor, the coding part has maybe become expedited, or much easier. But there is still a human who's going to be checking in, right? The ideas don't come from the AI or ChatGPT alone. You have to put the right prompts in. You should know your domain. So when we are hiring, and we have this, what we call this high performance culture, but like I said, embedded with wellness and all, our employees' talent is the biggest. Like we say, data is the new oil. For GCCs, it's talent. It's the people. So if you have to get the right people, retain them, and in Zafin we call them elite talent, and they understand. So the value they bring is on top of, it's just, AI is just helping them become better in productive, or taking away the routine, the mundane stuff from them, so that they can focus on the higher value things, right? But of course, there is always, in a smaller product company, platform company, there is of course that race to perform, and that is an expectation from everyone. But we are putting a lot more focus now into learning, which was probably a support function in the a few years back, like kind of
it's
it's
a
there.
front end thing now.
Now it has become front end, because right from any level, right?
I think
you
it's
just
also
have to
in
keep continuously learning.
creating the ecosystem. See, from the leaders being AI fluency is also very important in here. Okay, it should not be okay only for the new folks, or we'll say, okay, this is a training go through, you need to be working on this product or this services or this automation. Even the leaders also should talk the same way, because obviously they will have 25 years 30 years of experience, and they might not be so vulnerable to the new technology. So that's what I keep telling to my leaders, that you should create that ecosystem. And we do something called as both domain learning and AI learning. We share small nuggets every day on our team's channel, that about what it has done, because we have financial services, and it's more important when it's very fast changing, right, fintech. So we keep sharing that, so that get that idea spark. As she said, it's not from AI. Even AI will tell you what you prompt.
Yeah.
It will not tell you on its own, looking at you, oh,
absolutely.
okay, it's you, okay,
Absolutely.
let me give you the answer, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that way, we create that kind of atmosphere. And I tell them, when you even transition also any new work, or when you say client onboard also, think what is the process. And I use this analogy, okay? When you do Control A, means absorb everything, and then Control C. Just don't do Control C of a small part. Control A, Control C, and then when you do paste, it should be special paste and not just Control V. Means that speciality should come from what you can add to the process, either it is efficiency or you find out a loophole or anything. So they will start thinking. So many things has come up. Yesterday only I was talking to my quality assurance team, and she was saying, ma'am, we have found everything, but we need to ensure to reach out to agents directly to give them the feedback. It's not through the system. So there is the human touch, right? It's easy for them to give a feedback on the system, and it will be relayed. I said, oh, that's absolutely great. So it's both, and it's about the ecosystem you create, you nurture it, and it has to be a daily thing. It cannot be just one time and investment kar liya, okay, let's finish the budget. It's not that.
And one of the things, if I may add, depending
Yeah,
on time,
absolutely.
GCCs, when we look at talent, retaining or attracting talent, we also have to start working with the local ecosystem. Tie up with academia is very important, because what they teach in schools and universities has also need to keep up. And so as a start, we have recently started, we have tied up with our local, in one of the finest engineering colleges in Kerala, to basically promote and tell them of the different opportunities that are around, and what kind of skilling that they need to do. So it's not just longer technical skills that we hire for. We look at holistic skills, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you think? How can you articulate?
How do you react?
Exactly, right? Because in the time of AI, that becomes important.
Its co-creation is very important.
No,
with the-
absolutely. And as you were talking about the local talent ecosystem, we've seen a lot of GCCs are now coming in tier 2, tier 3 cities, like yours is in Trivandrum, right? A lot of talent is there in these cities, but how to determine, like, how will these GCCs in the tier 2 or tier 3 cities will determine that they are high value and they are giving that sort of value to their global peers as well? Like, how will they gain that global confidence? Let's end with this, right? I'll start with you and we'll end with you.
Sure. I think, it's really attractive now, and I will like to learn from you what are those, extra benefits you got, setting up here. What I know is, I'm sure it is 20 to 40% more cost effective, because that's the baseline anybody would come to. And maybe I would say, pollution free, congestion free. That's also even one of
But
the way of living.
infrastructure that you require,
I think they are building. What I heard, and I've seen many times, right? Attending a lot of sessions outside Bangalore, like this, and I've seen that happening. And I see that inflow from the STEM and from the colleges is very steady. But where they can value add is obviously when they start building the mid layer and the top layer, and it will happen gradually, because everything is a phase. It's a maturity, right? For sure, many of the organizations are already looking at where are their next offices or satellite office need to be. Obviously, they are looking towards Kochi, Trivandrum, or even in Jaipur. I heard one of the organizations has built there. So that will happen gradually for sure. It will come down, because India is the leader for GCC, right, in the globally, and that can happen when all these ecosystems come together. And I'm sure government is also doing a lot of things when it comes to incentives coming to these things. And morning I heard also from the people here and even in the talk.
Yeah, all right. And Suja, before you speak on this topic, just I'm going to add one more topic. When it comes to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, of course, we would want to attract that global confidence. We have a lot of talent. But do you think that retention is a problem in these tier 2, tier 3 cities? Because everyone is sort of attracted to the metro cities, right?
Right. No, I'll start with that. You know, what you said, the last retention. I think one of the beauty of, what I've seen, because it's been now, I've been running Zafin for, around a little over 2 years. But prior to that, I was I was heading Nissan Motor Corporation's digital hub, and they set it up in Trivandrum, right? This was back in 2018. And what I've seen is tier 2 cities, it's easier to retain talent. For whatever means, because they have chosen to stay back in smaller cities because of the lifestyle, the ease of living, as you want to call it. Because obviously, I'll take the case of Kerala, right? So we have two centers, one in Chennai, which is a tier 1 city, and then here in Trivandrum. Trivandrum has no dearth of talent, and in fact, if you go to Bangalore, you will see that there is a good number of people who have moved. And what we are also looking at and what we are seeing is, as the infrastructure grows and as the opportunities grow in these tier 2 cities, there's a lot of people who want to come back. One, attracted by the opportunity. Two, attracted by the fact that they can come back and be at, in their place where they grew up. And third, there's a lot of elderly parents. And in India, that is a very important part where you need to be closer to them during their old age and take care of them. So we see that trend also starting to happen, where people want to come back and be in this. So we are seeing, and there are also people from other parts, including Bangalore and other bigger cities, who just want a smaller city to live in because of the quality of life. Like you mentioned, air pollution, right? We have a perfect, wonderful AQI of like maybe in mid 40s, right? Like it is pretty good place to stay. And also government, I've been also, involved in some of these, Kerala government is actively looking at a policy. When Nissan came, there was a lot of interactions with the government to ensure that we had all the infrastructure that we required. Active interaction, right? And us meeting monthly and quarterly at the senior most level of bureaucracy and political to make sure that our requirements were being met. And it extends to social infrastructure, because, when you bring talent in, you have to look at their families. It can't be in isolation. And that is the other thing. We're looking at a lot of academia, tying up with them. Like I said, with College of Engineering, we have tied up to change the curriculum or modify the curriculum and allow talent to grow, and the soft skills. I know we are running out of time, but this is a very, very wonderful topic that I can go on
absolutely.
for.
And importantly, the social network, right? They want the social.
No, absolutely. Even
Good point.
I wouldn't mind if I am allowed to work by the beach and not get stuck in traffic daily, right? So, no, of course. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Now, in lieu of time, we'll have to end this conversation, but I know it's a bigger conversation, and we'll continue talking about it in our next episodes probably. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And to our audiences, the real strength of GCCs is not just its size. It's also about building inclusive culture, inclusive employees, sustainability, future readiness. And the real opportunity for India perhaps is to get that benchmark on all of these three things. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation.